Now let's talk about ways that we can make the nodes in a VA topic act more dynamically. So let's look at this one, for example, this access user node that I've created right here. So at this point in the topic, the user will have indicated that they have an access issue with Oracle and that they are uh, needing to either create a user or update an existing user. And whereas in the previous branching paths, we created a separate path for every choice, that's not always a requirement. And in fact, it's not always desired because you wind up creating more paths than you really need to, and maintenance and administration going forward becomes much more difficult. So here we can see with this access user node, we're asking them what is the email address of the user to be created. So let's take a look at what this does in practice. Okay, so it asks us what kind of help are you looking for. I'm going to say I need help with Oracle Access. And now it's going to ask me what kind of help do I want. So in this case, I'm going to say that I want to request new access. And then now we're at the node in question, and it says, what is the email address of the user to be created? And I can plug in the email address. But let's start it over again. This time we'll say the same thing, help with access. But this time here, we're going to say we want to update an existing user. So request update to Oracle Access. Now, we still need to tell it, we still need to provide it the identity of a user that we want to update. But the question here, the prompt, what is the email address of the user to be created, doesn't make sense in this context. We should be asking them, what is the email address of the user to be updated? So it's possible using JavaScript to change the prompt that this node presents to the user based on choices they've made previously in the topic. So let's take a look at how to do that. In order to make the prompt more dynamic for this node, we go into the node's properties, which I've selected it, and these are the properties on the left. Now the prompt field as it's presented here is pretty much just some text. If the prompt is always the same, then you can just enter it here. However, we want this prompt to change based on choices they've made earlier in the conversation. So in order to do that, we need to use JavaScript to generate the prompt. And in order to do that, we click on this button right here, and it opens up our script window. And now we can enter in some scripting here to display a different prompt based on the choices that they've made. So I'm going to go ahead and populate this with the JavaScript now. So here we have a fairly standard JavaScript if, else block. I do want to point out a few of the items here, the objects references that are specific to virtual agent. So you'll notice that in the first if statement here, we refer to an object called VA inputs. This is an object that is in every virtual agent topic that contains all of the variables that come from nodes in the conversation. So here I'm saying VA inputs dot access issue type, which is the name of this node right here. So you can see here variable name access issues type. So that node has a name, and when I want to check its value or set its value in JavaScript, this is the syntax that you use to do so. So here I'm saying what is the value or check the value of access issue type. If it is equal to create, then return this message. Now, I could simply say return and then just have the text, the string within the single quotes. However, it's always best practice in Virtual Agent when you are generating a message in JavaScript to use the gs.getMessage method. This way, if in the future or in the present you need to have multilingual support, you need to be able to generate messages in multiple languages, this will allow you to do so through the normal method for multilingual support. So that's the first line. The second line is else. So if this isn't true, then it checks the next thing. Is that same variable access issue type equal to update? If it is, then return this message. So in one case, it says, what is the address of the user to be created? And in the second, it says, what is the address of the user to be updated? So now the prompt will make more sense. Now, just to make sure that this script always returns something, I include an else statement as well. And in this case, I just say, what is the email address of the user? Now, given the way the topic is currently designed, it should be impossible for this to ever be returned, this option here, because it's always going to be create or update. However, if in the future changes are made to the topic, this will prevent any unforeseen errors happening when the topic is used after the update. So just good measure, you should always include an else statement as well, so that there is always something to be returned, even if it's not one of the two values you expected. So let's see how this works in practice. I'll click save, and now let's go ahead and test the topic again. And so we'll answer the first question here with it's an access issue. We'll follow that with that we want to request new access to Oracle. And so it should ask us, what is the email address of the user to be created? That's correct. Now let's try it again. And this time we will answer that we want to update a user. So request update to Oracle Access. And now it's going to ask us, what is the email address of the user to be updated? So rather than having to create yet another branch there with two paths, one for create and one for update, we can handle it in a single branch and just make the nodes in that branch more dynamic. And this is a way to really streamline your topic design, make it easier to maintain going forward, and also easier to read, because these topics can get very large, and the fewer paths you have, the easier they are to read in the designer. So that's how we can make VA topic nodes dynamic.